Hi everyone, welcome to the River Institute 2019 Year in Review. The audience, I would love it if you could message in the live event Q&A who you are and where you're from so that we know who we're speaking to. I'll just do a quick little tutorial on some suggestions. So if you can see the presentation there, number one is the bottom right corner. If you're on a PC, bottom right corner, please make sure your volume is turned on. I am not muted, so if you can't hear me, your volume is off. Number two is indicating that if your computer is slow, if there's a bit of a lag, if it's just sort of being a bit of a grumpy computer today, make sure your other windows along the bottom and then along the top as well are closed. Only have necessary things open or else your computer might slow up. So in the right-hand corner, right-hand panel of your computer screen, there's the live event Q&A. I can see some people using it. This is great. We have Jennifer Haley, Deborah Daigle, Christina from UCAM. That's wonderful. We're so happy to see all of you here. So in the live event Q&A, please feel free to leave questions for any of our presenters over the course of this presentation, and we'll circle back to questions at the very end. You can ask questions either anonymously or you can use your name as well. Either way, doesn't matter. We will answer your questions. Elaine Kennedy is here as well. Hi, Elaine. Wonderful. Okay, with that, we will get started. We begin this event by acknowledging that many of us are living on unceded land and traditional territory of Indigenous people. We're grateful for the opportunity to live where we do, and we thank all the generations of people who have continued their responsibilities to Mother Earth since time immemorial. We also ask that anyone who hasn't done so already to please follow us on our social media channels. So on Facebook, we are at St. Lawrence River Institute. On Instagram, we are at River Institute C. And on Twitter, we are at River Institute C. At this time, I'd like to introduce our chairperson of our board of directors, Walter Overly.
Good morning. I'm assuming if I don't hear otherwise that I've properly turned on my mic. The beauty of this platform is that sometimes we see people talking and we don't hear anything, so I haven't heard otherwise. So obviously I must be on. I would like to welcome everyone as well. Katie, thank you for setting up this platform and all the work and the stress that's gone into putting this time together. I'd like to welcome also the River Institute staff, the board members who may be on, special guests, and everyone else who has chosen to join us as we look at the year behind us, 2019 Year in Review. I am glad that as much as we sometimes struggle with technology, we're able to use it today to meet together. The River Institute is continuing to thrive even in difficult times, and thanks to the expertise of our staff and especially our key leaders at the River Institute, it's managing during this pandemic crisis. I look forward to the presentations today that give us a picture of the year that has been behind us. Since it's hard to believe, but there was life before March, there was life before COVID-19, and this will give us an opportunity to look back at the year 2019 was and celebrate the achievements and the milestones that were there. We each have much to celebrate, not the least of which is the 25th anniversary of our executive director, Jeff, and also a 10-year anniversary of Luke. And I ask, as we go through this time together, this platform, we will have the opportunity to ask questions. I too would remind you to turn off your mic or your cell phones or any other phones or noise distractions you may have in the room, since you'll be sharing that with all of us. So again, we've had a fantastic 2019 year. It was a many great events, many great happenings. and just a real way to make an impact in the community around us. And I'm thankful that we have an opportunity now to celebrate what 2019 was, even in light of what 2020 has brought us, as we look back and have some presentations from various staff and the opportunity to ask questions. So thank you, Katie. It's my opportunity now to introduce our MP, Eric Duncan. I had the pleasure of meeting Eric probably about 6 years ago when he worked with other political leaders in our area, especially with Guy. Eric and I have met at the farm and in some of the venues that he's put together for Guy. And just a real tireless worker for SD&G, and we're thankful that we have Eric here with us to be our guest speaker and welcome us into this meeting. So Eric, thank you for your efforts on behalf of your constituents. They are recognized. Thank you for taking time to join with us today, and we look forward to a few words from you to share as we make our way into today's meeting.
Thank you, Walter, and good morning, everybody. I said it's AGM season, usually in the month of June, and it's a bit easier having just to go from my my living room to the kitchen or to the office to participate in these. I'm calling in today from my home, my family home in South Mountain, so I hope my internet signal will be okay here for a couple minutes. I just want to thank Walter, Dr. Jeff, and the team for their continued leadership at the River Institute. I was a big fan when I was working for my predecessor, Guy Lauzon, and served on county council. And in the last, I think it's 8 months now, as member of parliament, I have even more respect for the team at the River Institute and all the work that is done to support the community, support the river, and our local environment. Just a quick example of, I received an email or a panicked call from some residents in South Dundas. I feel it was, you lose track of time with COVID. I think it was a couple months ago now, and there was a mysterious white residue that was appearing on the shores of the St. Lawrence in the South Dundas area, and I didn't know what it was, and residents were quite concerned. And it was one email to Jeff and then looping in his staff, and with about 24 hours, there was a very detailed scientific response that they were able to share, the River Institute was able to share, and I was able to as well to debunk any myths that there were issues. But every time there's a question about the river, something locally and the environment, I know who I can turn to, which is much appreciated. There's many issues that I've been trying to tackle as the new member of parliament for our riding, and again, one that I think the River Institute plays an invaluable role is specifically with the water level issues that we face, and it's not just myself, but I think any member of parliament in Ontario or Quebec that is connected or borders along the Great Lakes or the St. Lawrence River. And in our region, we're a little bit unique. I have to say I get complaints from my colleagues when many regions are facing abnormally or unfortunately more normally high water levels in their communities. Very often in our region, in Lake St. Lawrence, we face low water levels. So we have sometimes the opposite problems of what other regions may face. But again, I think the team at the River Institute have done a fantastic job in some of the scientific data and research that's been done that have looked at the effects on our environment, the effects on species in our region, both in the wintertime, and I believe there's some other seasonal work that is being done as well. The work's invaluable, and certainly from my job and my advocacy at the federal level, the work is invaluable. So I just look forward to continuing that relationship. I think one of the things that I've proposed with some colleagues is a bipartisan formal parliamentary committee to really take a look at the future of the river and our Great Lakes. And the example that I use just quickly is I look at the 401, the expansion of the Seaway and the Seaway project and the anniversaries we celebrated kind of match along the development of the 401. In over several generations, we've seen expansions of the 401, we've seen rehabilitation, we've seen expansions of interchanges and extra lanes. But on the river, we've really not taken a look as deep as we need to about marine traffic along there, the recreational aspects, shoreline erosion issues, water levels, and the myriad of different issues in the federal departments that are involved. So I've been looking and trying to get work with some colleagues across the aisle on a formal parliamentary committee. And I won't scare Dr. Jeff today, but I certainly think the River Institute, their testimony and advice on that issue will be very well respected and well received and very valuable for us. So I look forward to continuing the work. Thank you to the board, the staff, and of course the supporters of the River Institute. I look forward to working with you and just say keep up the great work. Look forward to the information today and catching up on your latest activities.
So I'll jump in here now, and thank you very much for that, MP Eric. And I really do look forward to working with you in your office as we've developed. As soon as you brought in, the communication really started to flow, you know, in an enhanced way. So, and of course, we do have, as you mentioned, a number of issues that need to ensure that everyone at all levels are coordinating their efforts. So it's my pleasure to speak to you today as the Executive Director of the River Institute to help lead off the AGM report, the year in review, as we're calling it. In 2019 was our 25th year of the River Institute. It just time flies, and as you heard earlier, it was also my 25th year as well. So it's when you're doing something that inspires you, that's fun, that you get to work with great people. It just, those 25 years do fly by. And so last in 2019, we took at our AGM, we took an opportunity to look back at those 25 years and appreciate how far the River Institute had come from, you know, in a small little idea of people had to bring together a partnership that was unique for the community, involving, you know, Cornwall, SDNG, and the Mohawks of Akwesasne. And really at that time, it was unique. And it spawned, I think, something that we're all very proud of today. So at that AGM last year, you heard from a number of the people that have had a big hand in those 25 years, particularly Christina Collard, who was celebrating her 25th year with the organization last year, as well as our veteran staff members like Brian Hickey, Louis Savard, and Pam Maloney. We also celebrated, and you're just looking at some of these little pictures there, seeing there, we also celebrated the announcement of the River Institute was awarded the NSERC Award for Excellence in Science Promotion. So we're very, very proud of that in 2019. What I'd like to do today, this AGM, is to give the opportunity for you to hear from the rest of the members of the team. Sometimes we don't get the opportunity to speak to the public in this type of event, but really are a team here, and everybody makes a really valuable contribution to the success of the Institute. So we're gonna kind of go through a number of different short little presentations by different staff members of the Institute. I would encourage you to use as people present, to type your questions in the Q&A box, the chat box, and you know, so that we can record those questions, and at the end there will be time to address some of the things, some of your ideas or questions that you may have. So our first, to lead us off in terms of the year in review presentations, I'm going to ask Matt Windle to get us started.
Thanks, Jeff. It's Matt Windle, research scientist at the River Institute. As many of you know, I'm involved with a number of research projects at the River Institute that are focused on monitoring the ecological health of the St. Lawrence River. And over the past 5 years, we built one of the largest fish data sets for the St. Lawrence River. This has created many new and exciting opportunities for collaborations. And I just wanted to give you a little quick update on one of these opportunities that developed out of this research last year, which was a trip to Shanghai, China. The trip was made possible by the River Institute's involvement with the Sino-Canada Network for Environment and Sustainable Development, which has Queen's University and Tongji University as core members. So the main purpose of the trip was an invitation to speak at the Shanghai International Nature Conservation Festival on October 19th. And this was about the ecological health of large river systems. It was a great conference, and it had the most spectacular opening ceremony I've ever attended and witnessed. And as you can see in one of the pictures there, they introduced me on a 50-foot screen, and I had my own action music, so it was great. While I was there, I took the opportunity to visit other members of the Sino-Canada network while I was in Shanghai to give presentations on how we set up ecosystem health monitoring programs for the St. Lawrence River. So it was a very busy trip with presentations and travel on each of the 6 days I was there. This included giving presentations at the Yangtze Environmental Specimen Bank, the Chongming Dongtan Nature Reserve, the WWF Field Station on Chongming Island, and a research workshop at Tongji University in Shanghai. The Chinese government has prioritized ecological recovery of the Yangtze River, and so many organizations are being consulted on how to set up ecological monitoring programs for the Yangtze River, and including the River Institute, all the way over here in Canada. So I was hosted by Dr. Wenlei Ren, professor at Tongji University, and he's also the director of the Shanghai office of WWF China. And I was also co-hosted by Dr. Bojian Chen, who's a university researcher there. And the trip was also coordinated locally by Dr. Yushan Wang at Queen's University. It was a fantastic experience, and I was treated extremely well by my hosts. And visiting downtown Shanghai was one of the highlights for me. It's a city of 24 million people and has some of the tallest buildings in the world. So every day was a new food experience. I could do a whole presentation just on the food. So I look forward to continuing working with the members of the Sino-Canada network as we move forward with a recently funded research project that is focusing on how to use environmental DNA and drones to enable communities to monitor biodiversity of large river systems. So up next, you'll hear from Jacqueline Francescini, biologist at the River Institute.
Thanks, Matt. Hi, everyone. My name is Jacqueline Francescini. I'm a research assistant at the River Institute, working with Dr. Lee McGaughey on the River Report. And the planning for completing an ecosystem health report has been in the making for some time, but it really took off in 2018 when Lee McGaughey was hired to lead the project, and the project was named the Great River Report. The project is in partnership with the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne, with the suggestion made by Henry Lickers that it be framed in the Thanksgiving address. For the project, we really just hope to communicate research being done on the Upper St. Lawrence River in a friendly and interactive way, as well as building relationships with community groups in the area. We hope to promote future collaborations and maybe spark some interest in the community concerning the health of the river. So for 2019, our team really focused on public outreach. We published a survey at the end of 2018 asking the community what activities they did with the river, as well as any concerns they had with the health of the river. We boosted the reach of the survey through various presentations and boothing opportunities, which you can see in that picture on the bottom there. That's myself and Megan Mitchell at a booth. And after a year of the survey being live, we received over 300 responses. We then sent out a follow-up email to update the community and anyone who participated in the survey with the results. Next, throughout 2019, we also had some team member changes. Neil Dempster, Megan Mitchell, and Stephanie Hildebrand joined us in the summer, and then Megan and Stephanie stayed with us part-time in the fall. We also had Matt McMillan and myself join full-time in the fall, so there was plenty of team members and plenty of progress. We also finalized the indicator selection process using the suggestions from a workshop held in the spring, where we had scientists come together and discuss the biological indicators that best reflect the health of the river. And then from this, we chose 6 questions to grade each indicator off of and then rank them based off their score. Once the indicators were ranked, we could start gathering data and background information on each, which is the stage we're working on currently. Overall, we're really happy with the progress we've made, and we'll continue to update the community on the progress of the project. And that's it for the update on the River Report. Next up is Lexi Hartwell from our education team.
Thanks, Jackie. Hi, everybody. I'm Lexi Hartwell. I am an educator and biologist at the River Institute. Like Jackie, I started last year. I started in February, but my involvement with the River Institute began a long time before that. I used to attend the River Institute camps as a kid, and when I was in high school, I did my co-op with Brian and Andy Bramberger at the time, which was a really incredible experience and really motivated me wanting to become a scientist. And just after I did my co-op, I found out about the Rotary Adventure Program, which was also held at the River Institute. So I got on that as quickly as I could, and I applied almost every single summer to work at the River Institute as a summer student, but could never seem to really get in at the right time. And I had decided to go back to school in 2018 for a semester. And when I was done, I went to the River Institute to go pay a visit to Brian and tell him that I had just finished school and I was looking for a job. And I believe it was the same day that the last educator had submitted his notice that he was going to be leaving. So it was just perfect timing for me to join onto the team last year. And since then, I got to be on all the other side of all those things that I really enjoyed as a student in elementary school and in high school. I've been doing a lot of teaching. I got to teach at the camps last year, which is really full circle. I taught at the Rotary Adventure Program, again, full circle, and I've been really enjoying learning a lot of new things and then teaching all of the students all the new things that I've been learning. So we've been doing a lot of invertebrate programs. That's been something I've really enjoyed teaching. You can see me with some of the kids in the picture here on the screen at this was an event for girls interested in STEM and science. So that was a really fun event. And then that's camp on the bottom there. So yeah, it's been a really incredible year. And next up is Steph to tell you a little bit more about the education team.
So hi, I'm Stephanie Guernon and I'm part of the education team, as Lexi just said. I started at the River Institute a little more than a year ago, right after finishing my master at Université du Québec à Montréal. I started in May, which is a pretty busy time already for education. We didn't have any program on my first day, but the very next day we had one, and then we had our first water festival of the season, and then it just never stopped. So I have many favorite parts of education program for all different reasons. It is very rewarding when we have students that are scared of fish, but are still very interested in what we're doing and end up facing their fear by helping us handle and ID the fish. So that's very nice. And sometimes when you're doing the same things over and over again, you can forget why you're doing it. So seeing students face lit up in surprise when they look at invertebrate for the first time under the microscope, it never gets boring, and it reminds us why our job as educator is so important. Kids also have a way of reminding us that we can have fun with the smallest thing. So it's pretty fun to watch them get in the water with their waders and feel the water pressure around their legs. They always freak out a little, but in a good way, and get super excited, even if we haven't seen or touched an animal yet. So that's always a good reminder of how special our job is. I really enjoy also the time spent with the group of kids from La Citadelle last fall. So they came to the River Institute once a week for a total of 6 weeks to do program with us. I remember that little girl, she was so excited for every program and wanted to bring back all the exercise or activity we did with them. So that was really a great experience to have them for 6 weeks. The OPG Family Workshop was also a highlight. We had some great presenters such as the Canadian Raptor Conservancy and Speaking of Wildlife, which both gave an amazing show. So you could see that people really enjoyed it because many faces came to all our 4 events. So overall, my first year as an educator and biologist at the River Institute was great, really diverse and a lot of fun. So next is my colleague, Mark McDougall, part of the River Lab.
Mark, you're muted.
There we go.
That's better.
Sorry about that. So River Labs is the applied research branch of the River Institute, working with government, industry, and community stakeholders to innovate and promote environmental problem solving. 2019 was a year of forward-looking growth for River Labs as we further defined ourselves in the field of environmental innovation. This included laying the foundation for future directions with the development of our RPAS, or drone services, a program aided by investment from the Community Futures Development Corporation and the 5B Family Foundation, enabling us to acquire a new state-of-the-art drone platform to expand our spatial service offerings for both research and commercial applications. The River Labs team is really its driving force and greatest asset. Its creative and hardworking team really fostered a number of new partnerships in 2019 and include an innovative collaboration with Akwesasne-based 7-leaf Indigenous cannabis producer and Cornwall's food cycle science led by Natasha Posaga. Looking at commercial applications of nanobubble technology with Cornwall's Earthwise technology project led by Louis Savard, and a flood risk assessment for the community of Caldwell First Nation. These projects are supported by the technical expertise of both Crystal Martel and Luc Saint-Pierre, who lead the processing and led processing of more than 1,000 samples in 2019. Looking forward, the River Labs team has worked hard to develop long-lasting relationships and secure projects in this time of uncertainty. This includes a number of high-impact projects for 2020, including one with Ministry of Environment, Smiths Falls R&D Bakery, Kingston's Plantee Plastics, and Ottawa's Linden Water. We look forward to continuing to expand our footprints, both locally and around the world. So up next, we're going to hear from Luc Saint-Pierre, who's going to tell us about some of the new equipment that is going to be used by River Labs.
Thanks, Mark. Hi, my name is Luc Saint-Pierre, and I'm the lab coordinator here at the River Institute. And as you can see, I'm coming to you live from the lab right now. The lab's main focus is to support River Labs work and the research scientists here. And in 2019, it was a very good year. We received many samples, and we had our great team, as you can see in the picture there, Crystal Martel, which is my co-worker in the lab, and also Sarah, which helped us a lot in the summertime. One of the highlights in 2019 was we upgraded one of our water quality sensors. I think probably close to 10 years ago, one of the research scientists bought a new sensor, and it was this huge sensor here, which I don't know if you can see, but it's quite large and it's quite heavy. And we upgraded to this new YSI DSS, which is much smaller, and it has all the same features and includes some extra. So one of our main jobs is to make sure that these machines work properly and they're ready to go when the research scientists, such as Matt, takes them out into the river to get water quality data. So that was one of the big highlights of 2019. So I'll pass it off now to the newest member of the River Institute, Marianne Perron.
Hi everyone, my name is Marianne Perron. I'm a new research scientist at the River Institute. I just recently completed my PhD at the University of Ottawa, and I learned about the River Institute because I started attending the River Symposium from 2015 and almost went every single year since then. As I was finishing up my degree, I applied for a postdoctoral position with the River Institute, and shortly after I applied, I got invited to do a talk at last year's River Symposium in 2019. The theme for the symposium last year was watersheds, water levels, and wetlands. I gave a talk about some of my wetland work that I was doing around the Ottawa area on the Science Day. It was a great opportunity to come to Cornwall and meet some of the River Institute staff, including Dr. Jeff Rydell. The highlight for me of the symposium was listening to the plenary talk by Henry Lickers, and he discussed his connection with wetlands, and that presentation still sticks with me today. Another presentation that I saw was our own Matt Wendell, so I got to learn about some of the research that the River Institute was conducting at the time, and he talked about water levels and ecosystem health. The community day of the symposium drew in over 100 students and community members, and they got the chance to learn about fish and river groups, traditional ecological knowledge. They got to participate in interactive nature stations and listen to exhibitors. One of the other highlights of the symposium last year was the keynote talk from Elizabeth Hendricks from the World Wildlife Fund. and she talked about her experience with water policy. Dr. Lee McGaughey also led a science data workshop where she gathered all the local experts that are working on the Upper St. Lawrence River and formed potential collaborations for the Great River Report. So overall, the River Symposium was a huge success. It's a great opportunity to come and learn about the River Institute and the staff, also learn about the research that's being conducted on the river, and connect with other community members. The River Institute also wants to thank Ontario Power Generation for hosting the event at their visitor center. This year is the 27th annual River Symposium, and it's going to be held on October 28th and 29th. And it's a very original event this year because we're going virtual. So if you want to learn more about the River Symposium 2020, you can visit our new website. Up next is Natasha Posaga, who is a project development officer at the River Institute.
Thanks, Marianne. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Natasha Posaga, and I'm a project development officer with River Labs, as well as a remedial action plan coordinator for the St. Lawrence River area of concern here at Cornwall. So for any of you who are not aware, back in the 1980s, the St. Lawrence River at Cornwall, Akwesasne, and Messina was designated a cross-border area of concern by the governments of Canada and the United States due to severe environmental impacts caused by human activities occurring along the river. At the time, there were a total of 43 areas of concern identified along the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence River. And for over 30 years, remedial action plans have been implemented in each of these areas to address the environmental challenges that have impaired those water bodies. One thing you may not know is that the declaration of the St. Lawrence River as an area of concern is actually linked to the formation of the River Institute, after a group of community members recognized the need for local expertise to be able to investigate and address these ecological challenges. So 2019 was my first year in the role as the St. Lawrence River Remedial Action Plan Coordinator. This position works closely with the St. Lawrence River Restoration Council, which is comprised of representatives from federal and provincial agencies, the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne, the Raisin Region Conservation Authority, as well as many other local community groups that keep the program moving forward. And while a lot of progress has been made over the last 30 years, we still have 5 beneficial use impairments or ecological challenges remaining within this area of concern, as well as 2 others that require further assessment to determine whether or not they should be considered impaired. So there's still work to be done. And a big key piece of this program is community outreach. So a large part of my role is taking technical data and information and translating it into digestible material that is both relevant and interesting to the greater community. One of our highlights from 2019 was the launch of a new website at stlawrenceriverrap.ca, as well as an electronic newsletter in order to make this information more available to the public. So if anyone is interested in learning more about the RAP, I do encourage you to check out the website. I believe the address should be on the slide there, or feel free to contact me directly if you have any questions. And back to you, Katie.
I almost forgot to unmute myself. Again, I'm becoming notorious for being the person who doesn't unmute myself, and I'm also the one who has to tell everyone else to unmute themselves. So, first of all, I am so excited about how this is going. Everyone is doing such a good job. I'm so excited. I'm actually going to have to rely on my notes because I'm so excited. I started with the River Institute about a year ago. I had seen the communications post go up for communications fund development, the job posting. And I thought, well, they have a 25th anniversary coming up. Maybe I'll go and kind of be a secret spy and see what these people are like and what they do and what this River Institute thing is all about. So I attended. I sat between Councillor Glenn Grant and Elaine Kennedy. And I couldn't get enough of everything that was said at the anniversary, and the people were so interesting. It was like this fascinating world that I had never encountered before. I'm not a scientist. I have a degree in political science, which I don't think that my scientist colleagues would classify that as a true science, but we can discuss that on a patio sometime. So I attended the 25th anniversary. Everyone seemed wonderful. I introduced myself to Jeff and to Christina and let them know that they could anticipate getting my application on Monday. And here I am, almost a year later. as I said, I'm not a scientist, so my job is always to make the science user-friendly and bring the science to life and tell the amazing stories that all of my coworkers are always so modest about. I always have to really like, this is great, this is so great, this is really interesting, guys, we have to talk about this. So that's my role around the River Institute. And it is usually as nuts as it's coming across right now. I'm a pretty high energy kind of person. So I have helped host and coordinate the Science and Nature on Tap. I've also worked with the team to transition us to online and virtual options. So our Science and Nature that was previously held at Schnitzel's is now an online platform. We're still monthly. It's usually the first or second Wednesday of the month, and it's now called Science and Nature Untapped. And we post the link to attend. It would be similar to this format for everyone in the audience. And we have wonderful presentations. Matt Windle was our last presenter. I think that was everything I wanted to say. Yeah, as the token non-scientist at the River Institute, it's always a lot of fun working with these super smart, super interesting people, although I am a little concerned that they have a running tally on all the stupid questions that I ask, like what's upstream and what's downstream. That was a real question that I asked. I grew up in landlocked Southern Ontario, so I think that's why. Up next, I am going to pass it back to our Executive Director, Jeff Rydell, for some final thoughts. And again, if anyone has any questions, please leave them in the event Q&A and we'll circle back to them as soon as Jeff's done.
Thanks, Katie. Well, I'm kind of bringing this AGM presentation to a close, and I thank you all for listening in and taking the I guess we've taken a little longer than we normally do in our AGM, but it's just an opportunity, I thought, to be able to share with you what I get to see every day, which is this amazing, dedicated team of hardworking and innovative people that really are the Institute. And it's amazing how the River Institute, while we maintain a core staff of veteran, we always sort of reinvent ourselves. And so, as you heard, there was a number of people over the last year that have joined the Institute as we, sort of reinvent and bring a whole new dynamic to the next 25 years at the Institute. One solid thing across all of our staff is the engagement in the mission of the River Institute and what we're trying to do. But also, I'd like to also point out in terms of how they all are all engaged in their own way in leadership roles in the community in which they live outside of the Institute, and I'm very proud of the work that they're doing. What's become abundantly clear is we're looking forward and dealing over the past years that the River Institute team has responded very positively and in a very innovative way to our COVID-19 crisis that we've been through in the last number of months. First off, headed by our IT team, led by Louis Savard, who was making changes to the way we did business and the way we did things electronically ahead of the curve. We had put in place a COVID committee in advance of really everything really getting locked down so that we were well prepared. This was led by staff member Crystal Martel and representatives of each of our departments so that we could mitigate risk, contain, make sure that we're safe, but also remain productive using new approaches and protocols. And maybe you're not aware is the fact that the River Institute laboratory testing, and we have an accredited laboratory test where people rely on the results. So we remained open throughout this whole period of time as an essential service. We had a core staff here, a small skeleton staff that managed to keep the laboratory going and receive samples throughout these last 3 periods. And this is where people like Luc St. Pierre, who you heard from, and Louis Savard and Crystal Martel, all were really sometimes working remotely, sometimes working in a laboratory just to keep things rolling. And I'm so thrilled that we've been able to service our clients that way, that rely on those results. And the team continues to reinvent themselves and reinvent, obviously, on this new environment through our education team, going from what is normally the busiest time, hands-on, lots of kids, to creating a whole new remote online program called Outdoor In, that is actually live content that it can be delivered, has been delivered in the classroom to provide really interesting and fascinating content for those teachers looking for content to try and keep their students engaged. An incredible program, and they're actually in the process of planning junior science camps, a limited number of camps for the summer, working within the current protocols that are out there. The River Rapport team, the FINS team, now that we have protocols in place and things are opening up, we're planning a field season this summer. And the River Labs is continuing to innovate and looking at ways to bring new technologies and to help the environmental mission of the Institute, but also in the economic development, especially particularly with the advances in drone training. And then you've already heard about the speaker series that we've managed to kind of bring to an online platform. As well, I'd like to recognize our administration and fundraising team navigating the myriad of financial challenges and opportunities that keep the River Institute on steady ground. And as was reported in the business section of our AGM, the River Institute saw at the end of 2019 ended with a small surplus and a solid balance sheet, thanks to the efforts of that fundraising team and the administration team. And we have tabled a budget for 2020 that is a credible pathway for a balanced budget that retains all staff and even provides limited opportunities for summer students in internships, continuing to fulfill our mandate. And I'm really, really thrilled about that and proud about that. And it's a credit to the hard work and resilience of our staff members and the support of our board of directors and our foundation board, and as well our strong relationships with foundations, agencies, businesses, and other members and supporters from the community. And we really want to, at the end, thank them for that continuing support. We're very, very grateful. So with that, I'd like to pass it back to Katie to take on any questions that we may have.
All right, so our first question is for Mark. So I'm just going to send his video live, and it's from Elaine Kennedy. Mark, what are the boundaries that the drone cannot be used on the river because of the Somerstown Airport?
Thanks, and hopefully I've turned my microphone off. I think I have, or on. So that's a good question, and one that is somewhat of a fluid, answer depending on where you are along the river. So in 2019, the Government of Canada actually updated their rules surrounding drones, where they cannot fly, in an attempt to really modernize the system. Prior to 2019, it was sort of a hodgepodge of things, but now we're more on a, everything is going in the same direction. In terms of where we can't fly, it really depends on what aerodrome restrictions are around. So Somerstown Airport doesn't actually have any specific restrictions around it. The main source of restriction in this area anyways is actually the aerodrome surrounding Cornwall Hospital. So both Cornwall Hospital and NAV Canada have 1 nautical mile sort of exclusion zones around those points. And being at the River Institute, where we do a lot of our testing and training, we're actually right in between those boundaries or those circles. So we get away with things, but there are ways to get around these restrictions. Typically, with the hospital or NAV Canada, we just have to notify them before we fly, as they're not terribly busy aerodromes. If we wanted to fly, say, in Ottawa, around the Ottawa airport, there's a lot more paperwork that's involved, but River Institute, most of the River Institute pilots are actually what are called advanced operations, or license for advanced operations, which does allow for flight near and around busy airports. But again, there's just a lot of communication that has to happen beforehand. So just a lot of logistic sorting out. So to sort of summarize, we can fly pretty much anywhere along the St. Lawrence. But there are a couple of areas that we just need to be extra cautious about, and yeah, make sure that there's just good communication between ourselves and those aerodromes or airports.
Okay, thank you, Mark. The next question is from John Santa with OPG. He was wondering, has COVID-19 delayed any 2020 projects or initiatives? I think I'll send Jeff's video feed back up to answer this question.
Thanks, John. And yes, of course, everyone, just like everyone, there's been a number of different projects that either have been delayed or had to be canceled as a result of COVID-19. And when I mentioned the education programs, so the education programs, which are normally, delivered hands-on to class, having classes come to the Institute, those obviously had to be, in many cases, be canceled. And that's why we're looking at these alternative program opportunities through remote platforms. And of course, it was all it's just evolving as we go, and it was trying to keep up with the technologies and the new needs. That was really the approach that we took. Another type of program that comes to mind that was delayed was in this. We had a number of projects which were looking in based on the spring sort of rainy season, and we'd get the plan would be to sample that rainy season and try to get lots of samples. So most of the way that and so that couldn't occur. So there's an example, and in most cases the approach has been to obviously recognize the situation, that this is something that we wouldn't be able to deliver, contact the organization or agency or business that we had a contract with, and enter into a dialogue. And I'd like to report that overall the support has been tremendous with our provincial agencies, government agencies, who have recognized the need to make additional plans. In some cases, we've actually revised deliverables, we've found alternative deliverables, and in other cases, we've had to delay and the timing. And that's just been an ongoing dialogue, and communication obviously is key through that whole process. So I guess that's probably, John, is what you've been driving at, is that kind of how do you approach it, and it's really through communicating and recognizing where delays are going to occur and looking for those alternative opportunities.
All right, thanks, Jeff. That is it for the questions. So I think we will sign off for today. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. Thank you to your TV for covering this. Thank you to all of the River Institute staff for being so engaging and interesting and fun to listen to. Louis, thank you for doing the slides, and Natasha for helping at the back end. And I hope everyone has a really great day. Thanks, everyone.